So our main guest on this show is the man who has masterminded the transformation of what was once a tainted team, Rabobank, into the all-conquering Jumbo-Visma, now of course Team Visma-Lease bike, and incredibly the winners of all three of Europe's Grand Tours in 2023. Now, Richard Plugge used to be a journalist, so there must be hope for some of us, but now he's one of the big players in European cycling, the head of the AIGCP, the team's organisation, and one of the driving forces, if not the driving force, behind OneCycling, the fledgling bid to streamline and rebuild the European scene. Richard, thank you so much for joining us and welcome to RadioCycling.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So first of all, I should probably declare for the listeners as much as anything a strange but true fact that myself, Richard and Pete also are all past editors of Pro Cycling magazine. But there's been an awful lot of water under the bridge since then, and our careers seem to have gone in slightly different directions.
Yeah, it happens. Pete and I worked together in the times of Pro Cycling, and yeah, I have to admit that I'm a former journalist. That's correct, but I was 18 when I was a journalist, I think, and afterwards I was more like an editor and publisher. In the times Pete and I met, I did not write that much anymore, but it was more making magazines and making websites, etc. within the publishing house I was working for, Sanoma.
Okay.
So yeah, it's more that I came, the step from towards the Rabobank team was from being editor to, let's say, / publisher of like 25 titles in Sanoma.
Okay, so that was when you made the transformation into the business of cycling then, I guess.
Yeah, obviously I was very interested in cycling already for a long time. I was an amateur cyclist myself, but I also was the editor of the magazine Fiets, which is the biggest cycling magazine of the Benelux. We started the website over there, and then we added Pro Cycling to our portfolio, and there Pete and I met. And we had Fiets Active, which is another cycling magazine, and then I progressed from there, and the cycling, Pro Cycling, and racing has always had my attention. Next to other sports, but cycling is of course my first love.
So first of all, a basic point that I think we should ask you: given their options, why would investors these days, when there is so much choice, why would they put money into cycling? And rather than sell us the dream, can you give us concrete reasons what the return on investment is for big sponsors now in terms of their involvement in cycling?
I think it's the best value for money for a sponsor, because you have the title sponsorship, the naming rights, and even the coloring rights, if you like, if necessary, to a team. So you can like in Formula One, probably have the name of the team as your brand name. So, and that's really really big. That's a big difference between us and for example football, where the club is the name of the club, and you're a shirt sponsor, but not a title sponsor, and there's a big one. And cycling is such a big sport in Western Europe especially, but also worldwide and globally. And we see the numbers of Nielsen regularly. Where we see the visibility and the audience growing outside of Europe as well. And so it's if you wanna get your brand out there in especially Western Europe, but also in other parts of the world very quickly, then being a title sponsor of a cycling team is a no-brainer in my opinion. And that's really a good story, I think, we have as cycling teams.
So, Richard, I just wanted to ask you, obviously you've kind of become associated in recent months with OneCycling project, and I just wanted to ask you who the potential investors are and how far advanced conversations are with PIF, the Saudi Public Investment Fund.
I think a couple of years ago already, we started talking with the UCI and the ASO, and other stakeholders in cycling to talk about a project where we can let's say make a better world for pro cycling than as it is today. And because today, I think our competition is not the other teams, is not the other organizers, it's the other sports. I said it before and also David Lapertien, I think he came up with the name OneCycling because it's meant to be for everybody. It's for everybody in our sport to make organizers and teams and obviously the riders stronger towards the future, more sustainable. And that's progressing very slowly. We had some political talks and thoughts, and sometimes it's going faster than other times, and there's not much happening at this moment. And on the details, I cannot really dive into that, but we will be working and keep on working on this. And I truly believe that if you go fast forward 10 years from now, cycling, if we don't do anything, cycling will have a problem. We have to make sure that we can maintain the races on the road as they are, or in a different format, to make sure that we are still able to race on the roads near your house, Pete, in France, where they happen to build more and more speed bumps and roundabouts, etc., to make it more difficult to have a race. And we have to work together in pro cycling, and that's hence the word OneCycling, where David Lapertien was also one of the ones who wants to leave, of course, cycling in a better place. If one day in how many years from now he will leave Aigle for another job, maybe I don't know when, but hopefully a long time from now. But he has to leave it in a better place, of course. So yeah, we have to work together, and that's what we are working on.
Richard, I just wanted to follow up quickly on something. Do you feel like there's a general consensus that change needs to happen with all the different stakeholders? Because I know talking to fans initially, they were pretty skeptical about this, but it seems now that people realise that change. Like you said, change needs to happen. Do you feel like the other stakeholders in the sport feel that same way?
100%. Everybody, even just 5 minutes ago, I read a headline on Cycling News that Marc Madiot of Groupama also asks or says something like cycling needs to be better in the future than it is today. And I think all the teams and almost every organizer has the same feeling, because it's getting more and more difficult for us to maintain where we are today, and it's a very healthy. On the one hand, it's a very healthy business. It's because we also have had new sponsors, etc. But we should especially think of the whole world of cycling, and there are a lot of organizers in trouble or having difficulties. There are also some teams there. We have less pro teams than we had before. So we also have to keep an eye on let's say the rest of the pyramid, and make sure that pro cycling or road cycling keeps progressing instead of, how do you say that in English? Declining or something? Or going
regressing.
Regressing. Yeah. So thank you. So that's and most of the people agree upon that.
Richard, I think Pete and I and Jez as well, we speak with teams as well, and I would say that there is a consensus that OneCycling needs to happen. Many teams have said to me it is the future of cycling, but I think there are two key players here for OneCycling to happen. There are ASO, obviously the owners of the Tour de France, the biggest race in the world. Is there a plan in place for proceeding without ASO? And secondly, to that, the Saudi investment, we understand that the Saudis really are involved, they are invested, they want to invest in cycling. How far are those discussions with them? And what happens if they say, do you know what, we're out?
There's one question I can answer, and that's the first one, and that's that ASO is of course really important but again, hence the name OneCycling. It's not for me, it's not for another team or one organizer. It's for everybody, and that's why I started these conversations already a couple of years ago with all these people, with all these stakeholders, and we want everybody in there, and people, but also we cannot make them join. So if people don't want to join, then it's up to them. But hopefully everybody like to join this whole process together with, we talked about creating, and David Lapertien said it already, 2026, a new calendar at least, and make sure that we have a more comprehensible calendar, world tour, whatever. So yeah, I think everybody is on board to do that, and hopefully we keep everybody on board, and that's the most important. And we can do a lot ourselves already, because for example, today I don't know if you can find the world tour ranking very easy. But at least my neighbor or my aunt does not really understand that there is a world tour ranking, and I think the quick win is already to create it, and yeah, that's fairly easy. Yeah, we can do that ourselves. We don't need anybody from outside to do that. So ASO, myself, with our experience, we can do that tomorrow. So. And I think, that's where we should be heading.
Richard, would you accept that it's inevitable that when you create OneCycling, that first of all, you're not going to be able to please everybody? That's a given. I expect that you now understand that it's going to be impossible to keep all parties happy. Some people are just going to have to accept it. Would you also accept that some teams are going to be really disappointed by the outcome if we've heard this restriction of 18 world teams, and also that some races are going to disappear?
No, not in my world, but but yes, I agree that people will be disappointed, because every change, in Dutch, I have this saying for myself, and I will tell it in Dutch and then try to translate it to English. But elke verandering is een verslechtering, zelfs een verbetering. It's an alliteration, and it says that every improvement will be perceived as an not improvement, the opposite of an improvement, even if it ends up as being an improvement. So, everybody will perceive that in the first instance, and then they'll look at it, and then they'll see, okay, it's after a couple of years, they understand, this was an improvement. This was not worse than it was better than it was. And you will always have people contra. I remember when taking over pro cycling from to the Netherlands, also there, not everybody thought it was a good idea, but in the end of the day, it still exists in Holland, and it's very successful in Holland. So it was a good idea.
I mean, cycling is a sport that's based a lot around tradition. What we've been doing for 50 years, 75 years, 100 years. People are very fixated, aren't they, on Milan San Remo has to be at a certain time, Lombardy has to be at a certain time. All of those kind of things are part of the tradition of cycling. If you bring investment in from the Saudi Arabian environment or from the Arab world, and if you change the calendar very much, are you steeling yourself for quite a lot of resistance and criticism for that if it eventually happens?
I think every change, like I said, will create some criticism. And cycling is a Western European sport at the moment, but attracts also a lot of persons from other parts of the world, and China, America, Australia, Colombia. So we have to globalize cycling as well, like with other sports. And I think it's more important that we keep, the good thing of cycling, of pro cycling, is the races we have already, and we should look at how can we improve and where can we improve. And should we, you will never kill your darlings, all your darlings, but maybe we have to kill some darlings. That could be. However, it should be for the betterment, and it's nothing is set in stone, or we have to look at it together with everybody. But the most important thing to me is that we have to work together, and we have to do it together. Because again, it's not the other teams, it's not the French teams against me, or me against the French teams, or the Spanish, or it's also not the teams against the organizers. It's us against the world outside, and more and more people start to understand that UFC, NFL, rugby, in France, for example, football, of course, which we will never beat, but football is there. There's so many other competitors to us, and we can only beat them or keep up with them, at least if we work together. And that's my story all the time. And I will, it's not about killing teams or killing organizers, or it's make sure that in a couple of years' time we have a better world of cycling than today.
Richard, your team had a bit of a blow last year with a positive test for one of your riders who raced at the Giro. I just wonder, what's the status on the Michal Hessman case now, and given that a ban is now thought to be likely?
That's a good question, and it takes a long time. It was we are waiting still for the outcome of. We know the outcome of the A and the B sample. These were positive, but now it's up to the NADA, the German doping authority. I think that's the first one who should say something like there will be a suspension or not. And we're still waiting for that, and it's on a personal level for the rider, of course, very frustrating that it takes so much time. But yeah, we have to wait, and we have to wait for these procedures. And it looks like it was a contamination, so it could take some time as well, because he is, of course, also having his defense then. We just saw, I read something yesterday, I think, about a Belgian girl, and it can take a long time before there is the ultimate verdict coming up. And that's, on the one hand, I understand that because you have to be very careful and very thorough in what you do. On the other hand, it's very frustrating and very difficult to cope with, I think, if you are, let's say, a young rider who wants to race and want to have a future in this sport.
Was it a supplement that was contaminated, or are you able to say?
No, I'm not able to say, but it looks like something as a contamination. But I'm not sure, and we have to wait for the official results from the NADA.
Richard, obviously, we've kind of briefly touched on it, and you will be aware that you are quite a divisive figure among the sports managers and stakeholders. There are a few people who are saying that you are using your role as the AIGCP president as leverage to get what you want. We've seen you take riders from different teams. We've seen you try to merge with a team as well. How do you respond to those claims that you are very divisive and that you're in it for yourself? I mean, do you regard that as unfair, and will you try to be the president again when there are elections later this year?
Yeah, well, I think um, if you claim that, then sorry. Oh, I think Chris is
Has,
muted, but
has
Oh,
he thrown
sorry,
out?
um,
I'm back.
but okay. Okay. If people claim that, then I think it it would be very strange if I was able if I let as a president of the AIGCP, I have to keep to the rules as well. So, I mean, it's not different than other people, and the only thing I can say is that I never broke any rule with no rider at all, and. We always followed the rules, either the rules or the laws, because don't forget there's also some laws going on, some legislation in countries. So I have to follow the laws and the rules, like everybody does. And I don't think I cannot use. And the only thing that sometimes I'm a little bit struggling with is that, not only me, but the whole board of the AIGCP, it's more people than me. We're in it together. We're with a couple of people. Ineos is there, Asia Desert is there, Israel is there, Total Energies is there, Sudal Quickstep. And these people are doing a lot of work, going to a lot of meetings with commissions of the UCI or with organizers, etc. And they put in a lot of work. And the only thing I struggle with is that people think these people are doing that for their own purpose. And I think the whole board, all the people in the board of the AIGCP are working for the greater good of the other teams, and that's also our mandate. We are mandated to do so, and we are also willing to do that. But you cannot claim that we are doing it for our own purpose. So. On behalf of the other management committee members, I think that's not fair to them.
Have you learned that it's kind of essential to be ruthless, really, if you want to be in the position you're in cycling, because it's a sport now that's driven a lot more by business and by those corporate interests than it used to be. And maybe when we first all started working in cycling, is it inevitable that you can't be popular with everyone? Do you accept that?
I don't know if if it only comes with being a president of the AIGCP. I think if you're an editor of a magazine, you also have to say sometimes no to someone who wants to bring up a story and write a nice story about whatever, and you have to say no, there's no place or no room for it in the magazine, and you don't make friends always as an editor as well. So I think being in the leadership of any organization, you will have your people behind you, and you will have your people against you. And but for example, the whole Safer project, I got over the line together with the management committee, our other board members, and there's a big majority of teams who were in favor of this whole Safer project. So in the end of the day, if it's a democratic process, and if the majority is pro, then it tells me something about the ones who are behind us and behind our management committee, and so far it looked good. So we were really happy with that. And yes, then there will be maybe individuals who are against something, and that again, that will always happen, even with a magazine like Pro Cycling.
There's one other interesting aspect to being a senior manager, isn't there? Which is that it gives you the opportunity to kind of move into other areas. And we've just seen in this country somebody who you know pretty well, I think Dave Brailsford, just change sports and move into football. Is this something that, do you think that's going to happen more and more, that people in a position like yours, because he's not a coach, he's not a trainer, he's a manager. Is that something is it a shock to you, or do you see that as quite a natural kind of progression for him?
I don't think it's a trend. I think it's what you see in cycling is that many people in cycling are coming out of cycling. They were pro cyclists themselves and then grow within the sport. And Dave was not a pro cyclist himself. So it was obvious that he has other interests as well already from the beginning when he came in with Sky.
He wanted to be a pro cyclist. Did you know that he wanted to be when he was a teenager? It was his big ambition.
Yeah, but he was not. He was not. No. When I was a teenager, I wanted to be a pro cyclist as well, but I was not good enough. That's very easy. But I was good at other things, and he as well. And then other organizations, because that's how it works. Will approach you if you want to work with another organization, with a football club or whatever. And the question is, do you want to do that or not? And for him, I can completely understand that that after 10 years or something, he wanted to do some other things, with sailing, with football, Nice, and now with Manchester United, I believe.
Have you noticed? Have you noticed, Richard, as well, that his interest in football suddenly happened when Jumbo-Visma started winning all the Grand Tours?
I don't know if there's a relationship between the two.
Okay.
But I have to admit, we learned a lot from him, and because he was in 2010, I think 2009, 2010, I think he was the one doing it different than all the others at that time, and he made a big difference in cycling from these years onwards, and I have to admit that I took a close look at what they did to learn from them and to see how we can how we could progress ourselves. The same counts for at that time Green Edge with Shane Bannon. They also had a way of working which was for me and they had more or less at that time the same budget. So for me, that was one of the ones I learned a lot from, next to Patrick Lefevre, of course.
Richard, I just want to add with a question about obviously racing starts in a couple of days at the Tour Down Under. The World Tour starts at the Tour Down Under. You've lost the rider, I guess, who's kind of the emblematic Jumbo-Visma rider in Primož Roglič. He kind of encapsulated your team really for so many seasons. Just wondered if he'd won the Vuelta, would he still be in the team? And what's it going to be like facing up to him at the Tour de France?
On the first question, I also cannot answer because I cannot, what if, I don't know. But the second one is he's a very good rider, and we will lose some races against him because he's such a strong rider, and in certain finishes he's almost unbeatable. And I will miss him as a person because he's such a nice guy. But yeah, it is as it is, and he wanted to leave, and I always say, you can. If someone wants to leave and think there's a better place for him at another organization, who am I to block that? If he finds luck and happiness at another place, then I can only congratulate him, whoever it is, and give him a good farewell and find a good way to split. And that's what we did, and I wish him all the best. Not in the races where we really want to win, of course, but he's part of our history. He's part of our legacy, so we will never forget that, and we are very grateful for that. And but now, it's a new chapter, and we have to try to find ways to beat them.
Just one final thing, then, Richard: is there a rider or a group of riders who you think can take over what Roglič was doing? Is it maybe a Uta Brooks, a Milan Vada maybe, or a Tom Gloag?
We have indeed a couple of riders who can do that. Maybe you miss one also, but these riders are the ones indeed for the future. We were talking about we also have to look at the next 5 years. I said this also already before, but after the Tour de France, I'm always thinking, okay, what's next for the next 5 years first, before we dive into the next year. But I'm always looking at the 5-year plan, where need I adjust my 5-year plan, etc. And then 1 year is only 20% of this 5-year plan. So we have to progress towards where are we in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years time, and who are the ones then who are winning races like Primož did last year. And but also we have to be aware that also Wout will be, he's our main man at the moment. But in 5 years' time, the question is if he's still there. And therefore, we have Per Hagenes, for example, who's coming up, and hopefully can show something that he's the successor of Wout, etc., etc. And we have to be always thinking of what will happen in 5 years' time and how does it look like then. And then you can already. Robert Geesink, for example, will stop at the end of this year with pro cycling. Yeah, we've seen that coming for a couple of years, so we have to be ready to replace him. And we were working already on that. So next year we can replace him, and that counts for every position in our team. And that's how we. Myself and Marijn Zeeman are looking at the future always.
Richard, one last question from me. I'm really not trying to be cheeky, but it's a kind of a what if question, I guess. But if Primož had won the Vuelta last year, would he still be with you?
I think that's a what if. I don't know. I cannot. It didn't happen. So.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry to, but as you know, as a journalist, the what if questions are very nice to ask, but very difficult to answer.
Okay, well, I appreciate that, and thank you so much for your time this afternoon. We really appreciate it, and look forward to catching up with you on the road soon.
Thank you. All right.
Perfect.
Thank you for your time as well.
Bye bye. Cheers.
Thanks a lot, Richard. That was great. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a good weekend. Cheers.
Bye bye.